All eyes are on the new abortion law in Texas, the strictest in the nation, was at the center of arguments before the U.S. Supreme Court yesterday on Monday.
That's right. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Joe St. George, he joins us now live from the nation's capital with an in-depth look at what is being argued. And Joe, good morning and thank you for joining us. What happened in court yesterday and what mattered most?
Yeah, good morning to you. You know, the whole country, not just Corpus Christi, is paying attention to this Texas law because it could have ramifications for every state. If Republican legislators in Texas succeed in defending this in front of the Supreme Court, there will be Republican state legislatures across the country attempting to replicate this law in their state. So there's a lot on the line. Now, the first thing that people waking up should know is that yesterday's hearing was very much a procedural one, right? It was about who is the actual defendant in this case? Who is the plaintiff? Can Texas officials be challenged by the Justice Department over this? Texas officials have been making clear that they're not the ones restricting abortions in Texas. It's regular members of the public. As a reminder, this would essentially ban all abortions after 6 weeks in Texas. You've already seen that happen with abortion providers nervous about pending lawsuits and legal litigation. But what's novel about this law in Texas is that instead of the government, police, sheriff enforcing these provisions, it would be regular members of the public suing an abortion provider for going past that 6-week mark. So yesterday what we saw in court was justices hear these arguments. It's always a fool's errand to try to predict what the Supreme Court is going to rule. The first rule in covering the Supreme Court is not to try and predict what justices are going to do. But if you listen to those oral arguments, you did see some skepticism emerge, at least by a majority of the justices, regarding this law and what the outcome of it could potentially mean for constitutional rights across the country. So the early reporting following the hearing is that this could very well face more legal challenges in the coming days, the coming months, but we have to wait for the Supreme Court to actually rule on this.
Hey, Joe, we know there's another similar case out of Mississippi. Why is that coming up, and how could it impact Texas?
Yeah, December 1st is that hearing. It's involving banning abortions after 15 weeks. What's different about that law is that it allows government to enforce it. It's more traditional in nature. The point of viability regarding abortion has been recognized for years by the Supreme Court as occurring between 22-24 weeks of pregnancy or so. That means that states haven't been able to really restrict abortions before that time. If the Supreme Court strikes down this Texas law eventually, then the country is going to be looking to Mississippi's law to see if that will be allowed to stand. That would potentially allow Texas Republican lawmakers to pass a new 15-week law if they so choose. But really, what this is all about, what the Texas abortion hearings are about, what the pending Mississippi cases hearing is all about, the oral arguments there come December, is does this conservative majority court drastically set a new abortion precedent in this country? That's the question that's perplexing legal scholars, political journalists. No one quite knows. On paper, there could be drastic changes to Roe v. Wade and abortion rights in this country, but of course we have to wait for the actual ruling to see if that is true or not. It's going to be a monumental next few months for the Supreme Court with a lot on the line in terms of abortion rights, women's rights in this country.
Well, all eyes will be on the high court. Joe, thank you so much for your time as always.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Time now for a look at the roadways.
Good.